Last time we looked at what's probably the least known cause of anxiety and one of the most common causes of anxiety. Nobody knows about it, and yet it causes a ton of anxiety, and that is pride toward God. Anxiety that comes from pride toward God can only be solved through humility. Nothing else will work. We saw a couple of paths last time to the kind of humility that will take care of that variety of anxiety. And then we got one more to look at tonight. And this one, tonight and next time. This one is so important that God gave us an entire book of the Bible devoted to showing us how to find this kind of humility towards God, and it's the book of Ecclesiastes. And the book starts out very dark. It's famously dark. The opening chapter is brutally honest about the brokenness of this fallen world. Brutally honest, so honest that it actually sounds like it's going a little too far. The opening statement of the book, absolute futility, says the teacher. Absolute futility, everything is futile. Ecclesiastes 1:2. Everything is absolutely futile in life? Well, it can sure seem that way sometimes, right? I mean, the narrator, who calls himself the teacher in this book, fills the whole chapter 1 with example after example after example of the frustrations of life. So much of your work ends up being a waste of time. Mankind never makes any real progress, generation after generation. Knowledge increases, but it doesn't solve anything. It just brings more grief. It doesn't solve life's problems, and it opens your eyes up to heartbreaking knowledge that you kind of wish you didn't have. What's twisted can't be straightened. The whole world is irreparably broken. 48 times in Ecclesiastes, the teacher calls the effort to straighten out this crooked world futile. It's futile. 9 times he defines futile as a chasing after the wind. You could sooner capture a stiff breeze than straighten out what's bent in this world, because it's God who bent it. Ecclesiastes 7:13. Consider what God has done. Who can straighten what he has made crooked? God created the world good, but then the fall happened, and the resulting curse changed everything. So now everything is bent, everything is messed up. No matter how resourceful you are, you'll never rise above the curse. That's not to say God has relinquished control. He still superintends everything through providence, but God's providence is notoriously unpredictable. He allows frequent, unexpected, painful events. And that's a cause of a lot of our anxiety. In our pursuit of happiness, we just chafe against the curse. We bump up against it. We want to get on top of the uncertainties of life and gain enough control to escape the heartbreaks of this whole rough and tumble existence that we have. But it doesn't work, because wild card providence throws wrench after wrench into our best laid plans. So you got cancer and financial ruin and injustice and war and birth defects and layoffs and loss of loved ones. No amount of preparation can prevent unforeseen disasters. And no amount of mental struggle will make it all make sense. Not only can you not control it, you can't even understand it. And the attempt to do so will just exhaust you. The teacher calls it, that effort, toil in this book. It's a draining, frustrating, anxiety-producing clash against an unstoppable force of God's providence. That's chapter 1. Chapter 2, the teacher tells the story of his effort, his attempt to gain control over this renegade world so that he can be happy. He wants to beat the curse and make his own providence. And he spares no expense. He runs as hard as he can after the extremes of physical pleasure and achievements and riches and greatness and knowledge and all the rest. He pours staggering sums of money and effort and intelligence and every other resource into gaining control over circumstances to create this nice, predictable, controllable happiness. No one has ever made a more Herculean effort to climb on top of hard providence and get a handle on life and make it work like he wants it to work than the teacher. He didn't just want to be happy. He wanted it to happen his way, on his terms, and in his timing. And the result? Misery. Misery. Ecclesiastes 2:17. After that whole description, he says, "Therefore I hated life. Everything is futile in a pursuit of the wind." So it got him nowhere. The whole thing got him nowhere. In verse 23, he says the only thing that he got out of it, that whole approach, was grief, sorrow, and an anxious mind. And that's ironic because it was his effort to attain happiness and peace that became the very cause of his unhappiness and anxiety. So, why would God include such a morbid, pessimistic book in the Bible like Ecclesiastes? Well, it's not morbid. In fact, Ecclesiastes is a book about happiness. It's a book about how to enjoy life. After those opening 2 dark chapters of really frank honesty about the impossibility of escaping the curse, the teacher provides the solution to the whole problem, which is enjoy life. Chapter 2, verse 24. And that solution is repeated. It's the main theme of the book. And I say that because it's repeated 7 times throughout the book. So we'll have all this futility, and this. And here's the solution. And then futility. Here's the solution. He does that 7 times. So Ecclesiastes 2:24, here's the solution right here. A man can do nothing better than to eat and drink and find satisfaction in his work. Then again in chapter 3, verse 12 and 13, there's nothing better for people than to be happy and to enjoy themselves as long as they live, and also that everyone should eat and drink and find enjoyment in all his toil, for these things are a gift of God. Then chapter 3, verse 22, there's nothing better for man than to enjoy his work. Then chapter 5, verse 18, it is good and proper for a man to eat and drink and find satisfaction in his toilsome labor. Moreover, when God gives any man wealth and possessions and enables him to enjoy them, to accept his lot and be happy in his work, this is a gift from God. He seldom reflects on the days of his life because God keeps him occupied with gladness of heart. Ecclesiastes 8:15, and I commended joy for the man that has nothing. For man has nothing better under the sun, but to eat and drink and be joyful. Next one, Ecclesiastes 9, verses 7 to 10. Eat your food with gladness and drink your wine with a joyful heart, for it is now that God favors what you do. Enjoy life with your wife. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might. And then the last one, Ecclesiastes 11:8. However many years a man may live, let him enjoy them all. Be happy, young man, while you are young, and let your heart give you joy in the days of your youth. Follow the ways of your heart and whatever your eyes see. Now, you suppose it's an accident that theme is repeated 7 times, the number of perfection? I don't think so. Because it's the perfect solution to anxiety. Now, especially anxiety caused by pride towards God. Now, at first glance, it doesn't really sound like much of a solution. In fact, it doesn't even sound like it makes sense. Because it sounds like he's saying in chapter 2, I tried my hardest to enjoy life, and it ended in misery. Therefore, try to enjoy life. Well, what is that? Isn't that a contradiction? It's not a contradiction because that's not what he's saying. The problem with the teacher's approach wasn't that he was trying to seek happiness and enjoyment. It was the way he went about it. He tried to attain happiness by gaining it through control and exempting himself from the trouble of this cursed fallen world. And that effort is futile. That ended in misery. The solution is to stop trying to fight against hard providence and the fall and the curse, and just learn to enjoy the simple pleasures that God gives you in the midst of all that trouble. If you try to reach beyond your realm of control, and you try to orchestrate your idea of what would make a happy life, you're going to forfeit the joy that's right in front of you. Simple gifts. like food and drink and work and wealth and youth and family, are loaded with goodness from God. Rather than striving to force this world to function properly, just take pleasure in what God makes available every day in His simple gifts. Now, I said just. I'm not implying that it's easy. It's not easy. It might take a lot of humility to let go of your anger over whatever happened to you in the past. You can't resist what God is doing and enjoy what God is doing at the same time. So this is not easy. If there's something in your heart that's resisting, you're not going to be able to enjoy. So enjoying life requires of letting go of that resistance, that bitterness, that anger, whatever it is, that striving against God's hard providence. When you read those 7 passages that I just read through that call us to enjoy life, as a Christian, they may kind of rub you the wrong way, especially the one in the middle, Ecclesiastes 5:19, which speaks of enjoying your wealth and possessions. Does that sound to you like a Christian message? Get happiness from money and goods, earthly goods? Shouldn't we get our joy from God and not this world's treasures? Yes, we should get all our joy. We should get all our joy from God alone. We should be happy in all God's expressions of love. But some of those expressions of love involve earthly gifts. And that's not a sub-Christian message. You see the same thing in the New Testament, 1 Timothy 6:17. Command those who are rich in this present world not to put their hope in wealth, which is so uncertain, but to put their hope in God, and then get this, who richly provides us with everything for our enjoyment. If we look to money and possessions themselves to provide our joy and our hope, that's evil. But if we enjoy God's love as expressed through those gifts, that's part of loving God. You see that? Because you interact with someone in love when you receive their way of expressing love. So if a man says to his wife, I don't want any gifts from you. No expressions of love. I don't want your hugs. I don't want your kisses. I just want you. Well, that would be nonsense, right? Part of loving her is taking delight in her expressions of love, whatever they are. So if she cooks him a meal, should he enjoy it? Well, it depends. If he's focused only on the food and not love for her, so he's just using her as his personal chef and that's all there is to it, that would be demeaning to her. But if the reason he's happy about the food is the fact that it's an expression of her love, well, then the more he enjoys the meal, the more honored she feels. It's possible to enjoy God's gifts instead of God. That's possible, and that's evil. But it's also possible to enjoy God through His gifts. So should you seek joy from food and clothes and money and all that? No. But should you seek joy from God through gifts like food and money and every other gift He gives? And the answer is yes. So, how is that done? How is that done? Well, first, by simply taking the gifts as they come instead of demanding something else. So, suppose a husband comes home to a warm dinner that his wife made for him and he says, this isn't what I wanted, and he throws it in the trash. Well, clearly he's not focused on the food, he's not focused on her love, he's not concerned about the gesture of love behind it, he's just focused on the food itself. Right? You know you're missing God's love when you can't take pleasure in His gifts because you wanted something else. Let the giver decide how he's going to express his love and simply enjoy whatever it ends up being. And one principle Ecclesiastes teaches us about how to keep our focus on God's kindness instead of the gift itself is by reminding us where enjoyability comes from. If I can coin a term. I don't know if enjoyability is actually a word, but I'm going to say it. Most people think the ability to enjoy good things is automatic. It's not. It's not. Ecclesiastes 3:13. that everyone may eat and drink and find satisfaction in all his toil. This is a gift from God. Finding satisfaction in something is a gift from God. Without that gift, you can't do it. You can't do it. Ecclesiastes 2:24. A man can do nothing better than to eat and drink and find satisfaction in his work. This too, I see, is from the hand of God, for without him, who can eat or find enjoyment? So, nothing in this world has built-in enjoyability. That's why you might receive immense pleasure from something one day, and the next day, it just leaves you flat. Does nothing for you. The ability to enjoy something comes from God, not from inside you, and not from the thing itself. It only comes from God. And this was a revelation to me. Most of my life, all I ever did was thank God for the thing that I was enjoying, but never for the ability to enjoy it. I didn't realize that was a separate gift. I'd see some beautiful sunset, and I would enjoy it, and I would say, thank you, God, for your spectacular beauty in the creation. And that's all I would say. But I failed to realize that at that moment, I was enjoying two gifts, not one. The gift of the sunset and the gift of the ability to appreciate the sunset. I didn't know that sensation of pleasure was a separate gift that God may or may not grant. I thought God's gifts were naturally enjoyable, and so when I couldn't enjoy them, you know those times where you just can't really enjoy anything? You eat food and you're like, I don't know. And you see something, it's like, I don't care about that sunset. And things aren't enjoyable to you. When that happens, I always assume, something's wrong with me. Something's wrong inside me. My attitude is, if a sunrise leaves me unmoved, that's like, my mood must be off, some emotional problem, something wrong with me. It wasn't until I studied Ecclesiastes that I learned that nothing in this world can be enjoyed unless God adds the gift of enjoyability to it. No amount of psychological manipulation will make it happen. The ability to take pleasure in God's gifts is itself a gift that must be sought from God. Keeping that truth in mind will help you keep your enjoyment of God's gifts personal, which is the goal, right? Because we want our enjoyment of His gifts to be in personal interaction with Him so that we love Him more and we enjoy His love, not just get enamored with the gift itself. And the way to do that is reminding yourself, my ability to enjoy this is a gift from God. So instead of falling in love with the earthly treasure, your attention will keep going back to the one who enables you to enjoy those gifts. And that can fill your life with joy, but it will only work if you're humble enough before God to be receptive to whatever His plan is. I remember once when my granddaughter was a baby and she was on the floor in our living room. She was just an infant. And her mom, Faith, came in and just scooped her up and carried her out of the room. And, she was laying there on the floor. She's content as could be. All of a sudden, she's gathered up and carried into another room and, put her jacket on, and now they're headed out to the car because it was time to go home. And I thought, what must that be like? I mean, you're just laying there, all of a sudden, whoop, you're up in the air, and you're just carried away, and you're whisked away to somewhere else. Can you imagine? You're just, you're playing with this toy, you're perfectly content, and all of a sudden, whoop, here we go. I guess we're going somewhere else. Oh, now we're in the car seat. Oh, now I'm in a shopping cart at Walmart. Oh, now I'm in a high chair at the dinner table. Now I'm in my crib, lights are off. It's just, when you're a baby, things just happen to you. Everything just happens to you. You just get carried around and pushed around, and most of it, you have no idea what's going on. You don't understand the meaning behind any of it. Now, a brand new newborn doesn't mind that a bit. Pick up a newborn, carry it around, doesn't complain, just whatever. They just think. No newborn says, wait, do I really want to be in the kitchen right now? Would I rather be in the living room? It's like, no, whatever. Mom's carrying me somewhere. Oh, well. But it doesn't take long for them to reach an age where they may not be quite so compliant. And it's more like, hey, I was enjoying that toy. I don't think I want any changes right now. I don't want to go eat. I don't want to go to bed right now. I don't want this. And so she resists. And then what happens? What happens when the child starts resisting? Well, nothing different. She's still going to bed. She's still going shopping. She's still going to eat. All the same stuff's still going to happen, but it's going to be an ordeal, right? It's going to be a fight. And the whole experience is going to be miserable because mom's going to have to overpower her. But if she just accepts what's happening, like the newborn, what'll happen? Will she have a happy life? Yeah. She'll find herself protected, well-fed, well-rested, well-cared for, clean. God gives us plenty that we can control in life. But there's a whole lot more in life that we can't control. Wild card providence just scoops us up and whisks us off to some different situation, out of the blue. Situations we never would have chosen. And our only options are futile resistance that makes us miserable and doesn't change anything, or humble acceptance like that little newborn. For the past year, we've been planning this big family vacation, Caribbean cruise. Super excited about it because we finally got our Chris, our one son-in-law that hates vacations, to agree to go. So this is like a once-in-a-lifetime deal. It's going to be their whole family and Nikki's whole family and us, and we're all going to be together on this cruise. Probably never happen again. We're so excited about it. We've been thinking about it for a year. The $1,500 price tag was a bit of a stretch for us, but we're just like, well, you know what? This is worth it. We're going to make this happen. Yesterday, because of an email that I didn't see because it went into my spam folder, directly into my spam folder, I missed the deadline to pay the remaining amount for the cruise. So our room was canceled. We lost it. The cruise was full. Tracy scrambled, asked her to check, they went up checking with the cruise line, and then right when they were checking, somebody canceled, and there's one room that opened up, so quick jumped on it, we got this room. But we lost all the money we already paid, and now we have to pay an extra $6,000 to go on this cruise. I didn't see that coming. Right? I woke up in the morning, I had no idea I was going to be down $6,000 by the end of the day. A friend of mine had flood damage in his house last year, and the insurance companies have been giving them all this runaround. They're still not back in their house. They've been living in a hotel, the whole family, in a hotel room for 10 months. And during that time, their minivan broke down. So transportation. They worked hard. They saved money. They bought insurance. They did everything right. They planned and planned and planned. And hard providence came and just bulldozed all of that. Can't see that coming. You can't see that coming. That's how it is, living in a broken world. Things don't go according to plan, and you just get blindsided by one hard knock after another. The question is, will we miss the joy that's available to us because we insist on chafing against that hard stuff that God is doing and saying, no, God, not that, not that, so that we miss what's going on? Or will we be like the newborn who just accepts being picked up and whisked into some new reality? If you need to be in control, Christianity is the wrong religion for you. What you're looking for is Satanism. Satanism, every Satanist I've ever talked to, when I ask them, what attracted you to Satanism? They've always told me the same thing. Power, control. They were attracted to it because of the promise of control. Satanism promises supernatural power to do your will. You can be like God. You can have power to control circumstances. You can even have control over people by casting spells on them and all that. Satan offers knowledge that's hidden from the rest of mankind. Revelation 2:24 is Satan's secret knowledge. God offers none of that. Instead, he offers himself. He says, you just enjoy being a creature, and I'll be God. And I'll be your God. I'll function as God on your behalf. I won't give you control, but I will give you my word that I'll be in control. When it feels like your life is just spinning out of control, just remember, it's only spinning out of your control, not God's. And is that such a bad thing? It feels like you need to be in control. But do you really? What would happen if you were? What would happen if God turned control over to you He just gave you the keys. And you, without any knowledge of the future, without omnipotence or perfect wisdom or perfect love, you were in control. Do you think that would have good outcomes? Or do you think it'd be a train wreck? Imagine a little child who goes out with his dad for some ice cream. And he gets to wondering about his future. They're sitting there at the table, they're eating their ice cream, and he's like, Dad, what will next year be like? I'm worried about it. I mean, what if I don't enjoy third grade as much as I like second grade? I mean, those kids are kind of big, and it seems kind of scary. And what about high school? And I mean, I don't even know. And will I ever get married and have kids? And how will I ever make a living? I don't have any skills. I don't even know. And why do we live in Colorado? What if I would be happier in like California or Florida or some Montana? I mean, how do I know all those places there are to live? What would be the best one for me? How do I know? And would I be better off maybe if I grew up on a farm? And he just gets all spun up and frenzied and panicked, and he's just worried about all this stuff, and he's going on and on. And his dad says, son, just enjoy your ice cream cone. That's all you have to do right now. It's my job to worry about where we're going to live and what's going to happen with your schooling and all the rest of that. All you have to do right now is eat your ice cream cone before it melts all over the floor. This could be a wonderful moment this kid has with his dad. Maybe one he'll even remember the whole rest of his life. But only if he stops worrying about the future and everything else and all this stuff he can't control and just enjoys the moment. And that's what Ecclesiastes is calling us to do. This kid tries to map out all his college years. He's going to miss the potential pleasure of the ice cream. And all his mapping out of the future is going to, what good is that going to do? Is it going to work? No. Not going to have any effect on his college years. Nothing he does now is going to change anything. But it'll rob him of the one thing that he's seeking, which is a happy life. His best bet is just to focus on learning how to enjoy the second grade in Colorado. Right? That's the message of Ecclesiastes. Stop trying to play God. Just savor your ice cream cone with your Heavenly Father right now. Now, this is not a call to passive indifference or some attitude that says, I don't even care what happens. God, whatever you do is fine with me. That second sentence is great. Whatever you do is fine with me, God. That's fantastic. That's beautiful. The first sentence is terrible. I don't care? No. In matters outside your realm of responsibility, leave that to God. But within your calling, within the realm of your responsibility, God wants you to go after that with passion and energy and ingenuity. Ecclesiastes 9:10. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might. So don't throw away hard work and effort and passion and all that. And don't throw away wisdom and knowledge either. Even though wisdom and knowledge are useless for overcoming the curse, still, you need wisdom and knowledge to enjoy the gifts that God does give you. Ecclesiastes 8:1, wisdom brightens a man's face. Ecclesiastes 2:13, wisdom is better than folly, just as light is better than darkness. You need wisdom. Wisdom won't help you bypass the troubles of life, all the troubles of life, but it will help you enjoy life and avoid unnecessary trouble. As the saying goes, life is hard, it's harder when you're stupid, right? Wisdom plays a key role in enjoying the pleasures of life. Deuteronomy 29:29 says, the hidden things belong to the Lord our God, but the revealed things belong to us and our children forever, so that we may follow the words of the law. So it's useless to try to know the hidden things, but it's important to search out the non-hidden things. There's much that God has placed within our reach, and we should devote ourselves to searching that out like a man searching for hidden treasure, Proverbs 2. So, go ahead, rack your brain, figure out how to solve problems, straighten out what's bent to the best of your ability. That's part of our enjoyment of work, laboring diligently, getting results. That's part of enjoying work. But when you reach the limits of human strength and human knowledge, like knowing what's in someone else's heart, that's beyond human knowledge. Knowing people's motives, seeing the future, controlling outcomes, all that kind of stuff. When you get to that, that's when it's time to humble yourself and recognize that you just recognize your role as a second grader I just need to enjoy my ice cream cone. Now, the anxious heart might hear all that and say, what ice cream? My life right now is anything but a treat. And if you look at all these blessings that we're told to enjoy in those 7 passages all through the book, eating, drinking, work, income, spouse, and youth, and possessions, all of those are tainted by the curse themselves, aren't they? In fact, those 7 things can be the cause of some of your worst anxieties. Like work. Does work ever cause anxiety? Your work is a drudgery, your income isn't enough, dinner is burnt, your spouse hurts you every day, you're getting old. What's to enjoy in all those categories? Well, plenty. Your daily life is loaded with gifts that could bring you joy even while terrible things are happening to you. But there are 2 mistakes that can turn those from joy producers to joy killers. And in the next session, we're going to see how to avoid those pitfalls and turn the everyday issues of life from stress producers to fountains of joy. We'll go through them one by one next time, and we'll learn how to enjoy each one. But for now, just focus on humbling yourself under God's mighty hand of providence. Give up trying to control outcomes and the things that you can't control, that aren't controllable by humans, and accept what God is doing and enjoy your ice cream cone. Okay, godliness training exercises for session 17. Number 1, Ecclesiastes 2:20 is a very interesting verse. The teacher says this. He says, I gave myself over to despair. Literally, I turned aside to allow myself to despair. Just ask yourself, are there any areas in your life where you're tempted to do that? Just stop fighting for joy and give yourself over to feelings of depression or discouragement. Number 2, what is your current ice cream cone that God has given you to He's saying, just enjoy this right now. Don't worry about the future, don't worry about the past, this is what you got right now, enjoy this. Make a detailed list, write it down, and I'm not just talking about one thing that's your ice cream cone. I'm talking about your whole ice cream cone, the whole thing that God is just giving you right now that He's saying, look, just enjoy that right now. What is your ice cream cone? Take some time to write it all out. And talk to somebody about it. Just sort it through. Think it through in detail. Number 3, go through the 7 passages that I listed, the refrain that appears 7 times in the book of Ecclesiastes calling us to joy, and notice which things in there does he call us specifically to enjoy. What are they? Just look at the list, and if you don't have it, I can email it to you. Just ask me, I'll send it, I'll email it, and underline each thing that we're supposed to enjoy. And when you get them all underlined, then look at that and ask, first of all, how many are there? And what do all those items have in common? Okay? And that'll help you in the next session as well. So make sure you do that one. And then number 4, make it your goal this week to never enjoy anything in a way that doesn't increase your love for God. Right? Everything you enjoy, try to enjoy it in a way that enhances your relationship with God.